Our brains are driven for dopamine, right? That's why we overeat, because we want to get that dopamine. When you answer that need for dopamine with food, and with my son, I was telling him he's answering it with video games, you don't have a desire to go get anything else, right? Because it's just been answered. So it's like, oh, I need dopamine, I'll just go get a snack. I need dopamine, I'll just kill someone in a video game, which gives you that dopamine hit. So now all of a sudden you're kind of left without having that fulfilled. I think a lot of times we get to this place where we're not distracting and we're not using food and there's nothing really wrong. And our brain, it's almost like our brain doesn't like that. I think the shift that is the most challenging for us to make is this shift from trying to avoid our emotions with that much intensity to actually allowing them. When you describe an emotion as something that's coming over you that you're afraid will take you over, that you won't be able to control, you're going to want to avoid and be afraid of it. But when you understand that all emotion is generated in our brain and you're not in a hurry to make it go away, you're willing to let the melancholy be there, you're willing to let the anxiety be there, all of that stuff be part of your experience, which you haven't before, so it'll feel odd. And so many times when we have felt this overwhelming depression, we feel so helpless, right? Because we feel like it's taking us over. And so we're so freaked out about that happening again that we just avoid it, thinking that that will somehow solve it. Right. But the opposite is true. When you allow the melancholy, when you allow the anxiety, when you allow those emotions, that's when you get the authority over it. For you, it's probably just a transition into living in a life where you actually feel your emotions. When emotions take you over is when you resist them. When you're like, listen, right, I got this. This is part of the human experience. I'm not buffering anymore. I'm willing to feel melancholy. This is what happened to me with anxiety, right? The willingness to feel anxious as part of my human experience has totally changed my life, because I spent so much time trying to avoid being anxious, feeling there was something wrong with me, feeling like I needed to change it and fix it. When I just allowed it to be part of the experience, I just kept moving forward. I arrived at this place of success, like where you are, right? Where you've lost, 25 pounds and you're like, okay, everything's great now. Why don't I feel great all the time? Right? And so I started thinking there's got to be something wrong with me. And I would do so many models and I would try to figure it out. I tried to always clean up my thinking so I felt positive all the time. And it was kind of exhausting. And then when I'm like, wait a minute, maybe there is no there that's better than here. It's just different. And maybe I'm always going to be a human experiencing the negative pieces of what it's like to be a human being. And as soon as I did that, so much of my suffering about my suffering went away. I think that's where you're at.